The views and opinions expressed by the guest author or speaker during this live session are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Reader's Magnet. The content shared is for informational purposes only and does not constitute endorsement or promotion of any particular belief, ideology, or product.
Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Reader's Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leah, and I'll be your host for today. And with me is one of the Reader's Magnet's featured author. And today, she will be sharing to us what this book is all about, her as an author, and of course, what inspired her to write this book. So, yes,
Mhm.
everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Miss Charlotte Reece Brown, author of the book Dad is Dying, There Is No Will. Yes, Charlotte, hi, it's good to see you. How are you
Hello,
doing?
hello. I'm doing great, thank you.
Wow, that's good to hear, Charlotte. And yes, we are very happy and honored as well that you also, let Reader's Magnet to be part of this journey. And yes, we are very excited to know more information about your journey as well as the book itself. But before we dive into the journey of your book and the story about your book, Dad is Dying, There Is No Will, Charlotte, of course, we wanted to know who Miss Charlotte Reece Brown is. So, yes, a little bit of self introduction, please.
Oh, okay. I'll just start out by saying again, my name is Charlotte Reece Brown. I'm the author of Dad is Dying, There Is No Will, which will be featured at the upcoming 2025 London Book Fair, March the 10th to
Yes.
the 13th. Okay, I was born in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I met my husband at Northeastern Oklahoma State University. We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary in 2024. We have 3 daughters and 12 grandchildren. So that's my life.
All right. Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you. And yes, Charlotte, about your book, I believe that this is also tells about your story, your own experience. So yes, we're very curious to know more about. We wanted to know more about that. So yes, Dad is dying. There is no will. Will you tell us what this book is all about?
The book is about a guy named Wesley who had recently been discharged from the army, and he met a lady named Desiree. I'm sorry, and eventually they did fall in love with each other. And she had been previously divorced and had 2 children of her own, so they formed a family together, and that started back in the 1950s. So you can imagine having a blended family during that period, which no one, to my knowledge, was really aware of. So the book goes on and just tells his life and how he grew up and the things that he went through during his marriage and the people he encountered. And some of the characters in the book are really creative. The readers are going to be not amazed, but they'll be kind of wondering, where these people come from? Why do they speak the way they speak? Why do they approach Wesley the way that they do? But there's a lot of information in the book. It's a small book, but it's a lot of information in there, a lot of details. And what happened was when I was writing the book, I wrote the book, really started it with my children in mind. I wanted my children to know my background, how I
Mm-hmm.
grew up, my experiences, and then it just blossomed. It really turned into Daddy's Dying, There Is No Will. That was one of the last significant things that I experienced with my dad before he passed. And that's where that title comes from. So there's a lot of information. It's good reading, good plain, just down to earth, but I'm sure many, many people will be able to relate to it.
Mm, wow, that's interesting, Charlotte. So, this is your own story, the journey, and at the same time, it also follows the journey of a man grappling with the complexities of navigating a blended family while, striving for, let's say, a fulfilling career, and at the same time, working on his inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, as he also, this actually talks about as well the challenges and the dynamics of the new family that
Mm-hmm.
he has
Mm-hmm.
where he encounters various of characters, just like what you mentioned earlier, various characters who significantly influence what his
Right.
life is.
Two of those
His life is currently right now.
two
Go
of
ahead,
those
Charlotte.
characters, he didn't meet them. The only one he met would have been the mother-in-law, and the other
Mm-hmm.
character was his mother. But they were only grounds they met on was making sure that Desiree's two children realized that Wesley was not their father. You don't have to do what he says. You don't have to mind him. Forget what he's talking about. That kind of situation came up. So it's interesting to know how people really um, dealt with him. And what I did was writing the book. I didn't use the original names in the book because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Someone may read the book and be able to directly, relate it back
Mm-hmm.
to the individual. So I did change the names, like they say,
Uh-huh.
to protect the innocent. But anyway, I enjoyed writing the book. One thing I
Mm-hmm.
did find out while I was writing the book was how comfortable I felt writing the book. I guess this was something
Wow.
had been it was in me, but I was working full time, 30-year career in the engineering industry. So I was, totally busy. But then once 2020 came, quote unquote, and I got laid off, I had time to go ahead and really, really gather all my notes because I had these different notepads and pieces of papers. I would think of things and write it down, and then I'd go away from it and come back. So now I had a chance to really compile the information, try to get some chronological order as to how things should be laid out within the book. And that's how the
Mm-hmm.
book came about. But it's like I said, it's a lot of information. Wesley went through a lot of things in his life. Um, and there's some good experiences, some bad experiences, but it was the way that he handled the situation. He was a deep thinking person. He had a mind of his own. He went through a lot as a boy. So
Mm-hmm.
going from a boy to a man and then spending time in the army also kind of helped him develop his persona.
That's right. As well as the unexpected hurdles of building relationship. This
Hmm.
would really invite our readers to, let's say, explore the nuanced interaction that shapes his quest
Hmm.
for balance and understanding in world that he's into. Wow, that this is so interesting, Charlotte. Now, Charlotte, about your book, since it also highlights on about building relationships. So, can you tell us more about that?
Well, the relationships within this family, like I said, you have Desiree and you have Wesley, and they became deeply involved in the church. So their family was pretty much run by the governings of the church, which the
Mm-hmm.
mother-in-law, whose name was Flo, she was starch religious. There was no getting past anything with her. So the relationship between Wesley and Flo probably was a little prickly at times because he had his way of thinking, she had her way of thinking, and she basically ran the house, even though she was the mother-in-law. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they had kind of a strange relationship, but still existed within that same household. So the teachings, the beliefs, and everything that all these generations of people had lived by, they passed it
Mm-hmm.
down to us and influenced us in a certain way that once being an adult, it's kind of hard to get rid of the rubbish that you may have been influenced by previously and learn your own way through life. Yeah, you have the standard basics that you may go by with spiritual aspects of life and everything, but you still have to live within this world. So that's something that I had to learn as a woman, as a young woman, as a woman with a family starting my life. But it's interesting how it has really, even writing the book has influenced me again because it helped me
Mm-hmm.
reflect back on things that I experienced, that I saw, that I see just relatively now, even with the internet, run into some of the same storylines
Right.
that people experience the same thing. It just depends on how you decide to handle them. How do you build relationships, or how do you move
Mm-hmm.
away from that relationship if it could possibly be toxic, something that
Mm-hmm.
damage you in a certain way.
Wow. And you know what, Charlotte? This book is really amazing because again, it doesn't just talk about your own experience, but at the same time, it really also highlights, the through reflective exercises and biblical teachings, just like what you mentioned,
Mhm.
which which will lead our readers to be more engaged to replace negative thought patterns and behaviors with the love, the forgiveness, grace, ultimately fostering a personal growth and emotional well-being, especially that we're also it also talks about, the building relationship, where it requires active effort and commitment from all parties involved, especially about the dysfunctional families.
Mhm,
It really involves, the open communication, the trust, the empathy with each other, understanding, especially, because in this book, Charlotte, you can really help a lot of individual, that would be responsible for nurturing their relationship
mhm,
by, let's say, being supportive with each other. Knows how to listen
mhm,
with one another consistently to foster mutual respect and
mhm,
connection. Wow,
mhm,
and that's nice. And also, your book actually talks about the healing from the impacts of growing up in a dysfunctional families. It could be, there's a lot of people out there who might also experience the same thing. So is there any advice that you can tell them?
Well, in that situation, you pretty much have to find your own way. And what I mean by that is, I'm a Gemini, so I'm the giver. I've always been the giver and try to listen to everyone's point of view and try to make sense out of it and not so much protect, but try to get the field, that level playing field between, okay, it's a brother, a sister, myself. We all grew up in the same household, and every last one of us has a different way of thinking about the past.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're continuously dealing on the past and not trying to move past the negative situation, you'll continue to stay in a negative spot. So that's what I've been able to do, thank goodness. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the man that I'm married to, and then also my surroundings in my adult life. I've been able
Mm-hmm.
to deal with the past, not hold grudges, pretty much forgive if I needed to. But like I say, I'm the giver, I'm the taker. So I didn't really have to do a lot of forgiving, but I had to find myself within those times as to what did I need out of that. So writing this book allowed me to express things that I saw, that I felt, that I know happened, and be able to, well, how am I going to come out of this? How would I, should I dealt with that? And I was like, well, I really shouldn't have had to deal with it because I was a child, but I saw a lot. I know a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, people go to therapists, you psychologists, you go to your priest, or whoever you need to talk to. But in those days, pretty much whatever happened in that household stayed in that household. So it wasn't any going out and pursuing the help from, this person or that person. So you have to find your own way. How are you going to deal with it? How do you choose to move forward? Are you going to go positive? Are you going to go in a negative
Mm-hmm.
space? Are you going to internalize the situation? And
Mm-hmm.
pretty much you can make yourself ill by doing that as well. If you internalize the situation, never let it out and just bottle it up. So,
Wow. Wow, that's nice. That's nice, Charlotte. And you know what, Charlotte, this book of yours is really such a successful creation because I believe that you've also been getting a lot of positive feedback from your readers, right? Now, about your book, Charlotte, how important do you think diversity and representation are in literature, and how do you incorporate these elements into your writing? It's because it really says a lot about language had power. So when did you realize that?
well, the diversity and representation is important in any field and all aspects of life. So, and I know readers exist all over the world. I don't know how many people actually are readers, but I do know some that are really, really deep readers. So, I wanted to be able to share my information with all backgrounds and cultures. I'm sure within those other cultures, people have had similar lifestyles and stories. So I'm excited to share my information with the world. If anyone within the world
Wow.
is able to read the book, I think it will influence, uh,
Mhm.
it would just influence the lifestyle. And hopefully it'll come to a positive center for anyone that reads it.
Well, thank you so much for that, Charlotte. And one thing that I really like about your book is really, highlighting the power of prayer. The reflection,
Mhm,
and community support rooted in these biblical principles.
mhm,
Individuals can gradually reconstruct their sense of self and develop let's say, develop healthier patterns, building relationship with someone would ultimately lead to holiness and resilience, for
Mhm,
each and everyone. Wow,
mhm.
that's actually nice. And that's amazing, Charlotte. Thank you. And Charlotte, before we end our session, is there any message that you'd like to give to our viewers?
Just keep hope alive. Just keep moving, keep pushing forward. Don't look back. Just plan for the future.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Charlotte. And yes, for our viewers out there, if you want to grab a copy of Miss Charlotte Reece Brown's book, that's available in Amazon.com. And I believe that her website will be up and available pretty soon. And also, please do check because this book will be part of the London Book Fair that will be happening very, very soon, March 11 to 13. So, yes, if you guys are in London, go directly to the book fair, and it will be your chance to know more information about Miss Charlotte Reece Brown's book. And yes, again, Miss Charlotte, thank you so much for gracing with us today. Thank you so much for taking Reader's Magnet to be part of this journey. And yes, everyone, our author, one and only Miss Charlotte Reece Brown, author of the book Daddy's Dying, There Is No Will. And again, Miss Charlotte, thank you so much. And as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.